here's the thing. Like, John Lynch made it very, very clear in his combine interview that Deebo and Nick Bosa were already budgeted in the plans, right? So that makes me assume exit interview. Okay, was that the exit interview? But I think he
farther back. That's worse.
Well, he also mentioned it in the combine, talking about Deebo's going to be here for a while. Like, they did talk about that, right? That they're planning on making Deebo a 49er for a long time. That's so cool. In my mind, that makes me believe at least there's a number that they know that they're willing to pay Deebo. So I don't think this is about them feeling like Deebo shouldn't get money. But let's talk about from the perspective of the team, Jose. What is their mindset as far as not getting this extension done right away, especially when we're seeing the wide receiver market consistently get reset with every wide receiver that is getting a new contract?
Yeah, and I think I want to point out a tweet that Akash made out because it was a great point. It's reflecting on what the Niners have done in their past, or just, since Kyle Shanahan has taken over with their contracts. And to me, the whole thing, when it comes to Deebo, I think personally the Niners know APY. Who cares about APY? Honestly, right. That's always been my thing. Yes, it affects the cap when you get to that point of past the guarantees. But to me, it's like it's the guarantees because you're tattooed with that on your salary cap for however many years you have it set or loaded to, whatever the situation is. So to me, guarantees is all that matter. I can give one less F's about APY. So the highest guarantees the 49ers have handed out was Jimmy Garoppolo at $48.7 million. Following that, the best left tackle in the game, and Trent Williams at $40. Then Eric Armstead, $34.1, George Kittle at $30, and Fred Warner at $27. Damn, Freddie Warner at $27. That's a jug. I mean, look, all those positions that I just listed off are way more impactful than a wide receiver. I mean, look, that's not fair. I wouldn't just dumb it down to a wide receiver because obviously he wasn't a wide receiver last year. He was a wide back.
But remember, you're doing it from the team's perspective, right? So maybe that's what they do think. Maybe they are thinking that a wide receiver isn't as impactful as these other players position.
But here's the thing: if I'm the team, I'm thinking of him as a running back because it's cheaper. That's why. That's why I think they're going to try to spin it. So from the mindset of the 49ers, hey, we want to pay you. Of course, you always want to hold on to your homegrown talent, especially someone who's really rise up in the ranks and has improved pretty much every year and finally made it to that stardomhood. But with him, I just think their mindset is, like I said, like I'm going to keep standing on, like they're not going to want to make him the highest paid or even close to that. They're going to want to bridge something of the top highest paid running back and somewhere of a kind of a one top of the paid wide receiver, because their case is going to be, it's a tale of two halves or two seasons essentially for Deebo last year. The first half of the season, he was predominantly wide receiver, right? He pretty much he was knocking on the door of what 1,000 yards by like week 10, week 9, something like that. But whatever.
Yeah, he was like consistently the number one in yards or at least top 2 for the first half of the season.
Yeah, so that was where it was most usage. He was predominantly wide receiver. Then, once the team went 3-5 or whatever, they're facing the Rams in week 10. And then they made that random switch to Deebo where it's just like, my God, this guy has a home run carry every time he get the ball in his hands. And then they just didn't look back. And you see the difference of him and his impact on the team. So they could say, look, Deebo, you pretty much notched almost 1,000 yards, when you're predominantly a wide receiver, you're productive, but it wasn't helpful for the team like that. As soon as we made the switch to you, to running back, all of a sudden, boom. So hence, you're more of a running back. We want to pay you more of a top running back scale, and then increase that more with the not one of the top wide receiver salaries or guarantees, but somewhere close to that line. So that's why I think you're itching more to that, that 50 to 60. If even they're thinking that, but that 50 to 60 guarantee range, and mine is like that's a pretty broad range. And then you just juice up the APY just to make them feel better. So that way, you're just letting them know, like, hey, look, the guarantees, don't feel that way because, again, you're the 49ers. Look, 2020, bro, you weren't there. Sure, a handful of games you were there, but ultimately you weren't there. You were injured twice. Don't forget the season. He broke his foot like in June or May, whatever, doing off-season workouts in Nashville. Or was it Nashville? Whatever, off-season, off-site, which is probably why, on the 49ers perspective right now, why they're not trying to rush into a deal with him right now, because they remember, dude, 2 years ago, you were just injured doing training, and all of a sudden we give you that money. Now it's like, great, we just spent all that. So to me, that's why I think they're looking at from running back, wide receiver mix. They love him, they appreciate him, they know his worth. And like you said, they budgeted it for him. But then again, that was before all those deals happened. So that definitely had to have changed some things. So you're the 49ers. You're probably trying to stick firm because, they have their own value price point. And I sincerely doubt they're going to touch anywhere close to that $70 million guaranteed range.
Yeah, and I don't know if I agree so much with the wanting to pay him or use that running back aspect to kind of lower his money. I mean, I understand why you might think that, and I guess if a team was gonna be an a-hole about it, they would go about that route. But I truly don't think that they're thinking that way. But I do think that there are a lot of things that you said that are very valuable, and I do believe that this, especially the 49ers, when it comes to a wide receiver, I do think that they would want more incentive laden deal versus a highly guaranteed deal. So they'd probably want to keep the guarantees, I would say, actually probably between like 35 to 40 million based off of the numbers that you just stated, but then have the incentives as far as playing time, catches, yards, touchdown, all that kind of stuff that could make him, even higher. You know what I mean? So I think that's one aspect that you mentioned that's very true. I think the other place that the 49ers are coming from is they have some unknowns on their team as well that can affect the way that the receivers play, right? They have a quarterback in Trey Lance who, if he's anything like the team may have projected him to be, like a great player that could elevate the receivers around him, then the paying a top wide receiver the type of money that maybe Deebo's asking for doesn't make a lot of sense, because you don't need to pay a receiver Devontae Adams money when you have Aaron Rodgers, right? You don't need to pay a receiver Tyreek Hill money when you have Patrick Mahomes. Well, the 49ers don't know what they have in Trey Lance. If Trey Lance is the level of these guys or anywhere close to that, maybe they don't need a $30 million receiver on their books, right? The second thing is they got a guy in Brandon Ayuk who could be a legit bona fide wide receiver one that they still have on a team-friendly deal for another 2 years because he was drafted in the first round. So they have that fifth-year option with when it comes to Ayuk. So if they're looking at it and they're saying, okay, well, do we really want to overpay for a receiver when we have another guy who we think could be just as good, possibly, maybe in their mind, with a quarterback that could probably make a lot of talent that much better, along with the fact that it seems like receivers now are starting to come in waves from college that are immediately able to make an impact into the NFL game without much of a process, right? We're seeing guys like Jefferson, Jamar Chase, guys like that are able to come in and make an instant impact straight from college. Maybe they're looking at it and they're saying, okay, this position might somewhat turn into how running back position is turned into, Jose, where it's like you're not going to see running backs unless you're like super elite, like top 0.5 percentile, get paid big money. Because you could bring in a rookie running back and he come in and give you the same type of production as some of the top running backs in the game. And you're seeing what happened with Dallas with Ezekiel Elliott, and that's looking like a worse and worse contract every single year. So maybe the 49ers are looking at it and saying, all right, well, maybe the wide receiver position is going to turn into the running back position, and with all this talent coming in. So maybe we want to be a couple years ahead of that trend versus behind that trend, giving the money to a guy like Deebo.
And I think another thing you got to factor in about the quarterback being someone as elevator, the play caller counts too. That's why Kyle Shanahan gets paid the big bucks, not just to develop these guys, which he doesn't really do too much of. It's scheming them open. So, I mean, it's not like Deebo is like a refined route runner in that sense. It's just that's why everything's pretty much short. You just get him the ball so that way he can do his most damage. But, I think if I'm going to go to your side, like I was saying earlier, like the 49ers are looking at all those positions that they guaranteed the highest to. All those were like, impactful positions. One of the more literally probably the top 5 positions in the game outside of cornerback was listed in there. So you're going to pay all those guarantees, almost double what you do Trent Williams to a wide receiver. Forget the running back point that I was playing, but wide receiver, because I think, if you're the 49ers, you're not going to want to use Deebo the same way you did with him last year, because that's not sustainable. And, he's already shown a little bit gimpy at times in his career. So you don't want to keep doing that. I mean, plus, Kyle Shanahan running back since Shanahan's been here, every running back's literally been dinged up. So that's why I don't like the whole like just pick on Raheem Mostert thing, because every running back's missed some time running the ball under Kyle Shanahan, whatever that has to mean, but definitely is a pattern there. So I think for the 49ers, it's yes, we want to steer you more towards wide receiver, but the thing is, Deebo, look, man, you haven't done what AJ Brown's done. You haven't done what a DK's done, or especially God knows a Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, and Tyreek Hill. So how do you expect us to make you this, one of the top or even in that realm when you haven't done it as long? The other guys, we feel comfortable inking them to these deals, investing them because we know what's up with them. It's unfortunate because you had that, last year, and you showed promise for one half of your rookie season, and you just blossomed into this stud last year. But the reality is, you didn't do that as a wide receiver. You did that as a running back, essentially. And as successful you were as a wide receiver. So that's why I think I would definitely agree with you. I think that's what the 49ers are looking for, that 35 around 40-ish realms and guarantee. I just think if they're going to have to push out of their own comfort zone and try to make Deebo happy, they'd have to look around towards that 50 and 60 range, which is pretty freaking high. But it's still something that could probably make him be like, all right, that's fine, especially with the salary cap going up in the future.